Hey there, I'm Veronica Dela Cruz, and here's what's happening. Hundreds took to the streets in New York City to express outrage over the killing of Trayvon Martin, the unarmed black Florida teen shot by a neighborhood watchman. The teen's family also attended the rally. In France, authorities are still in a standoff with a suspect who allegedly shot and killed 4 people outside a Jewish school. And at least 3 national supermarket chains will stop selling ground beef containing a filler referred to by critics as pink slime. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Let's get you back to Hardball.
Welcome back to Hardball. It's been over 3 weeks since the shooting death of the unarmed Florida teenager, Trayvon Martin, by neighborhood watch captain George Zimmerman. Pressure's mounting for Zimmerman to be arrested, but a self-defense law in Florida known as Stand Your Ground allows a person who perceives a threat to use deadly force without first trying to retreat from a confrontation. We'll talk about this right now. Now, Benjamin Crump, a lawyer for the Martin family, says new evidence provided by a teenage girl who was on the phone with Trayvon moments before his death exposes flaws in Zimmerman's defense. Let's listen to that.
He had no intention of getting back in his truck doing what the police instructed him to do. He kept pursuing Trayvon Martin. And how do we know? Because this young lady connects the dots. She connects the dots. She completely blows Zimmerman's absurd self-defense claim out of the water.
So will the Zimmerman defense work? Let's go to Jasmine Rand, who's a lawyer, who's also representing the Martin family, and Kendall Coffey's a former federal prosecutor and former U.S. attorney down there. So I'm trying to find out different theories. I guess we try to get to the facts and then to the law. I want to get to the facts of the cases. We can possibly determine them not having been there. Ms. Rand, thank you for coming on the program. Can you get us, do you have a theory in your mind, sort of a cinematic notion of what happened in those tragic moments down in Florida?
And I think that the 911 tapes say it all, especially Zimmerman's initial call to the officers when he says on there that that he sees Trayvon, who he identifies as a suspicious person. The only reason he was suspicious was he identifies him as black and as a black male wearing a hoodie. You know, we know now that there was nothing suspicious about Trayvon, that all he had on him was a pack of Skittles and an iced tea.
Okay, well, let's get to the facts. I know you're making an argument, but try to stay to the key facts here. What was going on in terms of the actions of the 2 people? What actions did the 2 of them take that led to this killing? Give us a sense of the action of the 2 of them. This guy gets out of his car. He's moving after the guy. The teenage boy who was killed was walking somewhere through the neighborhood. He began to pursue him. And then what do you believe happened?
I think that he began to pursue him. We have the new witness, the 17-year-old witness who came forward and said she was on the phone with Trayvon in the final moments of his life, that Trayvon reported to her that he was being followed, and she told him to run. Zimmerman says that Trayvon also began to run on his audio portion. So the last thing we really know is that Trayvon ran. The witness also said that Trayvon at some point lost Zimmerman, and it's clear that Zimmerman pursued and followed Trayvon, found him behind the apartment, and shot and killed him.
And what is your sense of what was the motive for the killing?
I mean, I think the motive for the killing, it has some clear racial undertones,
well,
but I'm not in Zimmerman's head. I'm not in Zimmerman's head, so, you know, I don't know his true motivations.
Do you believe that there was a confrontation which was physical and in any way endangering to Zimmerman in those last moments?
I do not believe that, and I think the evidence is clear. Zimmerman had a 9mm, Trayvon had a pack of Skittles.
Yeah, okay. And okay, let me go over to let me go to Kendall Coffey. In this case, trying to find out what happened, what is going to happen if this goes to court, and trying to determine a sense of what happened. Was it a guy who went out to do a murder because he was out to get a black kid? Was it a guy who went out to try to stop someone he thought was a burglar or a robber and then got involved in a scuffle with him? Are we going to be able to get to something about the nature of this tragedy?
Well, Chris, that's a really important question, because to prosecute a case, you have to have a realistic theory of what actually happened. And we all know that if you go too far take the Casey Anthony case, which is notorious, and you claim it's first-degree premeditated and you don't have the facts to back it up, you could blow the whole thing. And these have been very tough cases at any level to get prosecutions in. So they've got to come up with a theory that's realistic, that works, that can somehow overcome the giant obstacle of the Florida stand your ground law, which has defeated a lot of righteous prosecutions. Here's what I think the theory is. This guy was a self-appointed vigilante, a wannabe cop, who thought because maybe somebody happened to be black that he must be some crook who was up to no good. And I do suspect that there was some racial profiling in the mindset of George Zimmerman. So he, the wannabe cop, the self-appointed vigilante, runs after the kid. He's hunting him down. And in some moments that is very difficult to reconstruct because the only one who survived it is Zimmerman. Zimmerman, I suspect, had a gun on the kid, was in some fashion trying to get control of the situation, play cop, and Trayvon either was trying to get away or moved in some quick way, not at all menacing, not threatening. I don't think there was a justification, but something happened that caused Zimmerman, not trained to exercise this kind of lethal force, to kill the kid. I don't think he woke up that morning planning to kill somebody, but I think that his culpability was enough to justify some charge of homicide.
Jasmine, Ms. Rand, let me ask you this about what you've been able to discover from the prosecutors or the DA down there, the state's attorney. You said, I heard from our producers, that they are not going to use this stand your ground defense in this case. They're just going to use standard self-defense. What's your understanding of what their case is from their point of view?
And I actually had a one-on-one meeting with the Assistant State Attorney, Pat Whitaker, about 2 days ago now, and that is correct. What he told me thus far is that they do not intend to use the stand your ground or castle doctrine, and that they're looking at a strict self-defense. What concerns me about what I heard from the State Attorney is that when I began the conversation, asked an open-ended question, why hasn't an arrest been made, the State Attorney told me that he is continuing to investigate the claim to see whether or not there is a valid claim for self-defense. When asked whether or not it's his job to, prove Zimmerman's defense, he said, well, no, it's not. So, I understand that he's looking at the case from all different angles, but he didn't begin the conversation by saying, I'm looking to see if there's enough evidence to prove manslaughter or murder. He began the conversation saying, I'm looking to prove a claim of self-defense, and his word choices are indicative to me of his mindset.
Well, if that's true, it sounds right. Let me go to Mr. Coffey again. Mr. Coffey, last question. In a standard self-defense case, as you've described what might be a theory to the case, that there was some kind of move toward him or whatever, some sense of personal endangerment, under the standard law, forget stand your ground, just common law, our notion of self-defense, what does it require for a person to shoot somebody? What possible circumstance? If somebody's going to slap you and run away, can you kill them because you don't want to be slapped and have somebody run away? If somebody wants to push you out of the way and run away, if somebody gives you lip or whatever that, or did it have to actually be threatening your life? What is the rule here in law?
The rule in Florida, like most places, is you have to reasonably believe that someone is trying to kill you, that someone is trying to do serious bodily harm, or in Florida, somebody is committing what amounts to a forcible felony. And you got to have a reasonable basis for that. And that's why I think at the end of the day, there's not going to be a valid self-defense, although very tough to get prosecutions successfully turning into convictions in this kind of case, Chris.
Well, let's hope we can get to the case and to the facts. We're trying to figure out the law. Thank you so much, Ms. Rand, for coming on the program. And thank you so much, Kendall Cole. We're going to be looking at this case for several days. There's so many points that look at this. Why is a guy armed if he's on neighborhood watch? Neighborhood watch people shouldn't be carrying arms. Why is a guy acting like a cop who isn't a cop? These points of incredible, tragic discretion where you have to make a secondary, momentary decision should only be made by professionals. Here's a guy carrying a gun, making decisions of life and death.